Level Up Latina partners with working women and mamas alike to guide them in achieving fulfilling career and life goals through financial empowerment, professional or leadership coaching, and personal wellness. Find the unique coaching you need to succeed.
You're listening to Vero, Ceci, and Irene, and we are Level Up Latina.
Welcome back to another episode of the Level Up Latina podcast. This is episode 233, and today we are talking about getting back to routines. Often that means vacation, like we all just had here at LUL, or it could mean anything. It could mean you're going back to a new job and you've been out of work. It could mean that you're getting back into your routine after giving birth to a child. It might be your first child, whatever routine you've broken and now you're back to. It's really important to think about that process, be intentional, and we want to give some tips today. But before we do that, we're going to greet one another and see how everyone's been doing and how their break was.
Te estaba dando la palabra, Vero, pero...
Yes.
Yeah, good morning. Aquí estamos de regreso in the new year, 2024. First day recording in the new year for all three of us. And aquí estamos con frillito en San Francisco. I think down south también está el frillito, pero aquí I'm excited to see you girls and get back to work.
Sorry, my microphone's tripping. It doesn't want to take me on mute. Como que dice, cállate la boca, tú no vas a hablar menos en el 2024. No, I'm also trying to stay as quiet as possible because the lawns are getting cut on our street. So I don't want you guys to get that sound of the weed whacker and toda esa onda. Pero I'm excited. I am exhausted, but I'm also exhilarated for the new year. You guys like that drop? Excited, exhausted, but exhilarated. And trying to get back into the rhythm of things. So I think this is perfect. A lot of us took some vacation, much needed vacations to either rest or get some cultural excitement in our lives or learn something new. So I'm glad to be back. También aquí se está haciendo mucho frío. It is, se vinieron los Santa Ana winds también, and it's been super clear and beautiful, but also really, really chilly. So I'm not excited about the cold. Pero ¿qué le vamos a hacer?
I know, I'm like super bundled up in my house. My swagger didn't know you could turn the heater on. I flew in today, so I got here like at 7 a.m. from Hawaii, where the weather was like perfect for 5 days, like literal perfect weather. No se sintió frío, no se sintió calor. The sun was out, it was perfect. But I got here, it was like freezing. I'm like putting a sweater on. Diego and I were exhausted. I was like, take the kids to school, let's put the heater on, let's go to sleep. So I took like a 30-minute nap. So getting back to routine in two ways, because in the new year with work, but also after vacation. God, this is my first thing on the calendar. So I'll talk about like practicing what we preach and getting back to our routines. But anyway, I know when we were beginning this episode, in all true fashion of podcasting behind the scenes, it was taking forever because we couldn't get my speakers to work properly. So I think you both troubleshooted some ideas for this topic and why this topic. So maybe either one of you wants to start on what you thought of, what came to mind, why you thought we should give some tips on routines today. Either one.
I was talking about this because it's rough. I have 4 little ones. We went on a beautiful adventure to Mexico DF, la Ciudad de Mexico, and cada día había algo. We were always on the go. But what I learned from this trip was like, you kind of have to balance it, like kid activities and adult activities that the kids can kind of join in or acompañarte. So there was a nice balance of that, but there was always something. We were always doing something because there's just so much to learn and look at and like just experience. Pero ningún día that we were out were we up early. Like there was not one day that we're like, oh, it's a 7 a.m. day. Let's, call our guy that's going to drive us around and go do this. Or it was always 10 o'clock. We were up by 10. But I'm like, okay, that's at least a little bit of rest. Yo me sentía, the moment we got to Mexico, I felt so exhausted, just drained. Como que todo lo de los holidays and the year just caught up to me. Kind of like, boom, we got here. We got to the F and I'm like, I can't, no puedo. Like, I need to sleep. So I didn't rush or push anybody in the sense to like do activities too early in the morning because I sensed that we were all really exhausted. But being away, not only on holiday, like the vacaciones, but just the break, it's a lot because if you're single, like this is just you do your thing, you do all the things that you want to do, te levantas a la hora que tú gustes. It doesn't affect anybody else. But then in this case, you're responsible for you plus whatever amount of children you have. And in my case, those 4 little ones, and they all have different needs. And I was just like, I can't do this. So I'm like, I'm afraid for what's going to happen for Monday because they started school today. I'm like, I hope we can all wake up. I hope we can get out the door on time. I hope that we know no one's missing anything and they don't leave anything behind. Galilea was worried because she's like, I don't know where my classroom is, Mom. I'm not going to understand where se me olvidó. So le dije, no te preocupes. Si llegamos a buena hora, I don't talk about being late with them. Their concept of time is just not there, right? So I tell them, like, si llegamos a buena hora, van a tener la oportunidad to get in line with your classmates and walk to your classroom. And guess what? You won't be scared to not know where your classroom is because your friends are going to be there and your teacher, and they're going to guide you through this. She's like, oh my God, Mom, sí, tienes razón. So she was like, okay. So she knew when she went to bed last night that she needed to get up on time, get dressed, have her little breakfast, and then be out the door when Mom said, let's go. So then Joaquin's like, that means we're not going to watch anything on TV today, right, Mom? Tomorrow morning, Mom, because we get distracted, huh? And I'm like, yes, you guys do get distracted. So anyway, it was a good kickoff to the start of the week, but even the Sunday anxiety did come over me. I just went, I'm like, you know what? I don't want it in my head. I don't want to feel anxious. So I went to my notebook and just wrote everything down. ¿Qué tenemos que hacer? What needs to get done? And that was the only way I can alleviate it. And then just like go from there and be like, okay, time structure. And getting up at the same time, you know, at 6:30, 6:45 to be the first one up to make sure things start rolling was really hard. It was really hard. But we got it done. And now I'm like, I want to be like Irene and go take a 30-minute nap after this and just breathe. But it is hard to get back into the rhythm of things when it's not just you, but you have to bring along your ducklings that are just like, they have their own temperaments. They have their own amount of sleep that they need. They have their own little, you know, sus maneritas that you need to kind of like feed. So I wanted to talk about it because I'm like, this week is going to be a challenging week for me. And then my husband had to travel for work. He doesn't really travel as often like before, but it just so happened that they needed him at a building in Cincinnati. So he's like, okay. And he's like, you can do it, baby. You can do it. I was like, I know I can. So my alarm says, do it for your love. I can do it for me. But I told you ladies that I wanted to start being at least 80% on time, right? I have like these, you know, they're not like crazy goals. Like every day has to be on time. Everything has to fall into place. It has to be perfect. But I'm like, I have to give that 80% at least. If I'm not feeling it, if I'm exhausted, I have to push to her that 80% because it's not perfect, but at least it's very reasonable and not feel that pressure. O sea, por eso quería hablar de eso, Irene.
I think that's an excellent reason to talk about it. And I think 80% is good too. I think maybe most of us are on time 80% of the time. Maybe not. I don't know. But there are people that are probably on time 100% of the time, right? But it's okay. I love that grace. I love that space that you're giving yourself because I think that's honest and the kids will see it. I also love, I have to say, that you don't talk to the kids about like being late. I love that. If you get there, you get a chance to do da-da-da-da. I think that's like super, super creative and not making them feel time conscious and anxiety around time and lateness and what that means. That's really, really cool. And it also doesn't make them feel bad, which is great. It makes them feel like what's the benefits of being early and without being said. That's not being said. Very, very cool. And my favorite thing that you said was like, you know how you're going to feel. My husband and I were just talking about that in Hawaii. Like if you know anxiety is coming on, a good way to avoid what's going to happen is not to pretend like it's not going to happen. A lot of people, I think the coping, and it's natural to be like, okay, I don't want to think about that. It's not happening right now. I'll think about it when I have to think about it. But if you know how you're going to feel, it's good to, like you said, like plan it out, get in plan mode. Like, you know, that's going to make you feel a certain way. So you don't then do those behaviors. So for instance, for me, I don't use credit cards as much as I could. Like I could pay my credit cards cash and I still won't use them for the points sometimes. And it's such a weird like habit from the olden days that like, oh, I just have the cash, I have the cash, I have the cash. But then I leave all these points on the table. But it's that mindset of like the olden days when I felt like I had all this credit card debt. Like I'm very good about not having a lot of credit card debt. But I can because I can pay it cash. Like the money's going to be in my checking account when it's time to pay it. So sometimes they're better than others. We have these big cash payouts of credit cards. And other times I'm like, oh, I didn't use it. I just didn't use it. He's like, and he caught that like this week. Like, that was a big expense. Why did you put it on your cash account? Like, I don't know. I still have that feeling of a potential anxiety that might come. So screw the points. The point of that is being conscious. Like even if it's good or bad, because like the point guys online would be like, girl, get every single point, especially if you have the cash. But if you know, Vero knows, I'm going to plan because it's going to make me anxious. I'm going to plan. Or if I know, you know what? Not this time or not every time, like maybe just sometimes, like what works for you, like stay conscious. And if your routine works for you, it works for you. Like Sometimes I use my credit card. Sometimes I still don't. Like I just don't want, like, just mentally, like, I like having my debt seem very low on paper. It's my own damn thing, right? And that's my routine, weirdly.
Do you think that also had a little bit to do with like when you bought your house, right? You bought your house and they're like, you learned this whole process. I mean, luckily we have friends that are in this business, but they're like, the debt to income like ceiling and learning all of that. I think I'm very conscious about that now too, but it is anxiety. And that's just how we were brought up too, because aguarda porque tal vez hay una emergencia and you're like, I want to make sure that I have access to this money and blah, blah, blah. But I feel you 100% on that, Irene. Money is an issue. And I think that, there's a lot that we need to work on in regards to that and avoiding panic mode and anxiety.
Or avoiding like
'Cause it's
worries
not
that are not there. Like maybe our routine or things that are like us being avoidant. Like if the worry's not there, learning not to worry about it. I know that I took that conversation in another area, but the whole point of that story was like that he and I talked about like that thing that I do is like a forward thinking behavior to avoid like something that might feel like a pain. And that's what routines can be. Like they might feel like a pain, so then we don't worry about dealing with that routine. But if we deal with it before, like so today, I knew like I don't have a ton of meetings today because it's my first day back to work. I knew I'd be getting here early. Like I wanted to fly at night, so I knew I'd be tired, So when I suggested podcasting, like, okay, this is not like a drain. This is my girls. This is fun. Like, but I'm not going to do a high level meeting this morning. We are not going to talk numbers. I'm not even going to answer emails that I don't want to answer on a Monday after break and vacation. Like getting back to routine is knowing what might cause you like I'm not going to do that. Some avoidance that's planned and intentional. And then other things like, oh, I'm going to do that because I can ease into my routine. I think that's what I'm trying to do.
Ease into it. Keyword right there, girl. Easing in, smooth into the process.
I see Ceci nodding that head a lot with her pretty pink jacket on.
I know it's making a noise.
Weather.
We can't hear it. It's just your energy that's like vibing through that jacket.
It's the swishing. No, I'm nodding my head because I'm like, yo también. I'm like, I always plan my days like that too. Mondays is the work from home day. And I try not to schedule, like, I won't talk to a client on a Monday, like I won't. I mean, a legal client. I'll talk to a coaching client on a Monday, but not a legal client because I'm like, I don't want to put my legal thinking brain on a Monday. I will do admin stuff like, check the email, stuff like that. Pero I'm nodding my head because everything that you both are saying is so relatable. Like, okay, schedule things. And then, this week también for me was back to reality, back to routine with the girls getting up early, todo ese desmadre. And it's crazy. And it's just like, and then it's a really cold day también. And one thing that I did yesterday intentionally was Sundays, what am I saying? Yesterday was going to be the Sunday that night before the girls went back to school. So also yesterday I went to my parents and I was going to be there all day. So I was like, ay, vamos a llegar. I'm not sure what time we're going to come back. I know I'm going to be tired. And then we have to get the girls like in their, bedtime routine and all that. So I planned ahead and we're talking about tips. So I kind of planned ahead. I already knew, I was going to be gone most of the day. I wasn't sure what time I was going to come back. I knew definitely before bedtime so we can do the bedtime routine and all that good stuff. So I left like their backpacks already kind of ready, like on the side in the spot that they always are at. But then I brought down their school water bottles to have them there ready for the morning, their little lunch bags, pretty much ready. And then when we came back yesterday, sometime after 7 p.m., like, all right, girls, bath time, correnle, because it's gonna be, you guys had to go to sleep on time today. Mañana's, día de escuela and all that. And then I laid out their uniforms for them. What else did I do yesterday that I was like, I need to do this because so for Dia de Reyes Magos, they got walkie-talkies and they were like super excited about them and they're like freaking using them all day long and just they're loud, right? They're loud. They're fun. I've been playing with Luis and I have been playing with them too. And last night, one had already showered and she was ready to go and like everything. And then she starts playing with the walkie-talkie. I'm like, these are going away. Pero por qué? I'm like, because I know. I'm like, these are going away. Se los regreso mañana, So I put them away purposely in my closet. And then I realized that they freaking still had nail polish on their nails. So, and they can't go to school con nail polish. It was like, oh, y les había durado because Luis took them to go get a mani the first day that they were off on break. So they still had it. And I don't know if it was, I think it was gel because like I was always, like it was taking a long time to come off, So I like 15 minutes, I was like, all right, 15 minutes. And by the time they went to sleep, it was closer to 8:30. But it was like, oh my God, well, it needs to get done, ni modo. So this morning it was really hard to get up, really hard to get up. And usually Mondays for me, it's hard to get up. But anyway, it was hard to get up. I'm like, girls, come on, let's do this. And I was like, I don't have energy or the time to work out this morning. I'll try to squeeze it in my day somehow later today. I'm like, but at least let me make my bed. I'm going to make my bed before taking the girls to school. Por lo menos I'm going to feel like I cross one thing off the list because I didn't do my whole thing that I've talked about before, my agenda planning or whatever on Sundays. I didn't do that. I'm like, whatever, I'll get that done on Monday. But at least I'm like, let me make my bed this morning. Y al rato me fijo lo de mi agenda and how the week is going to pan out. I knew the podcasting was going to happen at 9:30. I'm like, pero también como dice Irene, I'm like, oh, it's not like a meeting that I have to like think, and be on my ¿cómo se dice? On my feet, be on my best, I'm like, I'm just gonna show up to my friends, quick on my feet. So yeah, I know. But yeah, that was my little tip for like, I knew I was gonna be gone all day Sunday and I couldn't, necessarily be here to plan everything out. So I'm like, okay, let me do a little bit of it before I leave para no llegar a las carreras con la ansiedad. And even though I knew the anxiety was going to be there, but I'm like, let me take off a little bit of that anxiety para llegar bien. And and ultimately, like, it was good. I maybe stayed a little hour more than I wanted to, but it was okay, at my parents. And then me tocó ver a la güera como una hora. So that was nice.
That was so cute seeing you guys on the IG in the story. I was like, oh, wish I was there having a beer.
I know, it was like she left today and she said she was leaving today at 11 back to Aguas. And I was like, okay, I can make it happen. I'm like, I have about an hour and a half. I'm like, ahí te caigo. And she's like, yeah, nos vemos al taquito. I'm like, all right.
The cool thing about that is visiting with a friend that we love, a friend from college. It's like that break of routine is probably good for the lame parts of the everyday routine. So do something exciting, do something fun, do something different. Just because you have to get back to your routine, like that'll be the tip of the day, right? Doesn't mean that you have to like dread every part of it. Like you can still make that day fun and exciting. So like for us, if it were to enjoy the sun outside, it had to be cold in LA, but to still feel like we're on vacay, right? Like maybe do something that still feels like where we were yesterday. But for you, it was seeing her like you were having a weekend, your caregiver mode, your lots happening, vacation, school, kids, like to see your good friend from college and just shoot the shit, laugh, cry, whatever you feel like doing, eat, sing, dance, drink. That's good for our routine to also incorporate some fun stuff, not just go stuff.
I text her, I was like, we're having a beer.
See, exacto.
With her, you don't have to tell her twice. So
she was already in like 10 beers in.
So she's like, dame una caguama, cómprame una caguama, por favor. Ahí nos vemos.
Funny enough, breaking up routine, we had, I hosted a lot of holidays this last holiday season here at my house. So I had 2 Thanksgiving, 2 days apart. So it's like my family's Thanksgiving here for my side of the family. Diego's was on a Friday night. And Lisette nos cayó. And it was awesome. The same friend that we're talking about. And she came in and it was like a tornado. It was like that saying, like, un tempestad in like a cup of water, because her and her guest, hilarious, fun, loud. I'm so glad it was Diego's family that they came into because they were all about it. But we really broke up the routine. Like I know my family, Diego's family was like shell shocked. Like it was like a Mexicanazo party, music, screaming, yelling, playing games, shots, drinking, da 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 da. Like they had never had Thanksgiving quite like that. And my brother-in-law and his beautiful wife, they had just bought a house and they were going to announce at that event. There was no way like anyone was going to have a spotlight to share anything remotely like important. So we didn't share for that day. But breaking up routines are funny. Even break it up for somebody else. And our holiday was interesting because a really good friend was here and I loved it. I loved every second of it. I'm glad she came. My family the day before, 3 of them that were here, were with us when she and I went to Tequila, when Lisa and I went to Tequila, Jalisco. So they were like, hell yeah, have her bring her +1. And they were ready. They were like ready for her. Like, it's going to be loud. It's going to be fun. No tocó llegar because they like clonked out, but she came the next day. But that's a beautiful way to break up routine too. Like if you can make something funner, then it feels cool. Like even Vettel telling her kids, like, let's go line up with the kids and blah, blah, blah. And well, she's really trying to say, let's get going for the first day of school.
I know,
which my kids would say, I want to stay home. My kids would say,
make fun, make the mundane fun. You're right, because, but a la misma vez, like you think about it, like, oh shoot, is that pre-anxiety? Like a lot of us don't want to admit the panic, like I started feeling it and I started recognizing it because I'm like, for a long time, I wasn't listening to my body, but I'm like, oh, me siento bien así rara. I feel like this pit in my tummy. And I'm like, it's freaking anxiety. I feel like this panic or this anxiety taking over me. So I think a couple months ago when we had a GFS, I talked about the beauty in the mundane. And it's just about that. Like our routines might seem, they might work for us and they might seem sometimes a little like boring AF. But we know what happens. We know that if we skip out on those 3 little boring ass tasks, that tomorrow it's going to be a hell of a day in the sense, not in a good way, but like hellish day that you're like, I should have done that. I knew I should have done that. And I skipped on it because it was just boring. But it's making the fun in the mundane, the beauty in it.
One step further, I think, which is really, really cool, is that like excellence comes with routine. Like literally the secret to success is like being consistent on the things that have to be routine. Like no one became successful like willy-nilly, inconsistently, aquí, allá, maybe I do, maybe I don't. So like almost embracing routine as part of like, if I'm striving for excellence, not perfection, it's like striving to do things in excellence, then it does take like waking up early or working out, like the mundane things that people don't want to do and I want to avoid, but then you do really well for yourself when you're working out. You do really well for yourself when you get enough rest. And for some people that may be going to bed late because you're a night owl. But if that's your routine and it replenishes you, hazlo. Like that's the only way you're going to be successful. Our podcast, we are freaking consistent. Like consistent. Do we always show up whining too? Maybe not. Do things always work out? This morning they weren't working out. And it's like, we didn't give up on it. It was like 30 minutes of troubleshooting to get back to this freaking routine because that's excellence. Like we didn't quit on it. Oh, it isn't working. It isn't meant to be. Trying and everyone trying to say that this is what we're going to do today. Back to this routine. We've been on break. We're going to do it today. So I was really proud of us that shows the example of routine is also necessary. Maybe boring, maybe fun. We don't want you to have anxiety attacks around it because sometimes that's a bigger issue of a bigger problem. And like if you really are dreading going back to work and like you dread that environment, you dread those people, you dread your feelings at work, like we got to talk about that. That's a whole nother coaching conversation.
Girl,
that's not okay.
I was about to say, that's a whole nother conversation.
That's not okay. I'm not saying Irene at Level Up Latina is not saying, well, you got to show up and be consistent at the job that is draining the life out of you. Like, no. Consistency for the things that are bringing you joy, that you're good at, that you love, that you need to do for your next level of excellence. Not consistency in places that are a terrible routine, like, say, just a work environment that is shitty. Ooh,
not consistency in complacency.
Oh.
Wash the t-shirt time.
Yep. Be your best. You have to be inconsistent with complacency and do not be complacent. So we've talked a lot about, making it fun, embracing that it might be boring, taking it slow, easing into it, planning for it. I know both of you kind of talked about sitting down, thinking about it, writing about it, not avoiding those feelings. One of the things I mentioned was also doing things preemptively to know that, okay, this is going to make tomorrow easier or make the situation easier. How do I plan my day? How do I structure my day? Vero talked about how she handles it with the kids. Any other tips for getting back to routines with kids? I know that, Ceci, you had some give and take rewards and, okay, we're not going to have this if you don't do this, which I think is really good for kids. Any other tips for handling it as a mama bear or even with your spouse? Like, how do you get back into a routine with your spouse? Like, you both have to suddenly be back on your partner. And I know that single moms don't get to do that. They have to do all of it together. But do you guys kind of get into a rhythm where like one of you's maybe feeling it and the other one isn't? Or how do you guys divide and conquer like together? Like today, for instance, I felt like mareada on the plane, and I've never felt that. When I was getting off the plane, I felt like it was hot. I felt like, man, I feel like I'm going to throw up. So today's my day to drop the kids off. We have schedules here that we've had forever. So I'm Monday mornings usually, and Monday afternoons. And for sure, Diego was like, yeah, you should lay down. I got you. I'll take the kids. I'm like, oh, but it's my day. He's like, I got you. Like, I got you today. Like playing routine because when we can, we can mix it up, but for the most part, we stick to it. So that's just one example of how we try to manage our routine. We have a scheduled commitment to the students. They are students, to our children.
To our children.
My daughter has tech week this week, so that's always the hardest week of theater because she has to be there a lot, like 6 hours every evening right after school. They have to go in hair and makeup. They had their show opening on Friday. So ya hace como un mes, I think we divvied up who's doing what rides for tech week. So I know already today, like on my calendar, I'm off the hook. Like Diego's taking it today. So that helps us with a routine that's coming down the road. How are we divvying up running kids to places and picking them up? But what helps you both with your partner? Or even like your partner might be your mama, your babysitter, your housekeeper. What helps you?
What was I gonna say? We do check-ins like Sundays or Mondays because are we both here? He's here right now. Oh, I'm like, he was okay, yeah. So we do check-ins, like, all right, what's this week gonna look like? Da 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 da. And then we alternate making their school lunches. So a mí me va a tocar esta semana. So yesterday I was like, hey, what am I gonna make? I'm like something easy, simple. The simplest thing, right, that I can make for their lunch. That's what I did. So yeah, like talking about it, like, what do you have going on this week? And just like, how can we support each other? And I'm the one that does drop off and pickups for the most part. But when, I can't do it or I'm running late in the office, like Luis will pick them up or, vice versa. I'm like, yeah, I have this thing in the first thing in the morning. I have to be in the office or I have to be at this meeting first thing in the morning. Can you do drop off? So things like that to check in and make sure that we're on the same page. Or, hey, you know what? I'm having a tough week. Like, can you handle this? I'm having like mentally, I'm not there and I just need to be at home, and I know I've had those days lately. And so he's been more, como se dice, like hands-on with things like that.
So what I'm hearing is to keep the routine going, you ask for help, you accept help, you take help. We as women have to ask for help because sometimes the routine is not going because we're doing way too damn much. We're one person trying to keep the routine sustained and consistent. But sometimes we can't be that person to everybody all the time solas. And we might be burned out. We might be tired. We might just be too busy. Too much going on. What about you, Vero, with your team? I know that I hadn't even noticed, but you went on vacation con tu sobrina y tu papá. I saw them in the photos, and I was like, hell yeah! Like, your dad was there, right? I'm not making that up. I saw him.
No, that was...
that wasn't your dad?
Ese señor, he looks like my dad.
He did.
I thought it was your dad, too!
Did everybody ask you, is that your dad? Did everybody ask? Am I the only one that asked?
But the next time, we're going to take my parents to the DF with us.
Oh, I was like, Vero took a whole freaking tribe. I loved it. Pero tu sobrina sí.
I tried. Yeah, me llevé a Marisela. Marisela came with us, and it was really fun. But no, I invited my parents. I did all that, but my mom's like, no, we're going to be home because, the rest of the family's going to be here, and we want to make sure we have time with them and see the kids. So for me, hablando de esa vacación, we left on the 26th, and we were flying out of TJ, so we had to make sure that we left here on time. Things were ready to go. Y vámonos. I'm the kind of person that if I'm leaving out of town for the weekend or I'm going on vacation, I don't like to leave my house a mess. It's just, I want to walk into, no like full on desorden y tampoco like, OCD, but I want things in their place. I don't want to walk into shit all over the floor, like it just puts me in the wrong headspace. But on the 25th, we hosted the family here at our house. And we had everyone here. They were here late. We did, Feliz Navidad, a la medianoche, todo eso, right? So the next morning, we were all a little tired, so we kind of slept in. We didn't have to leave here until about 4 o'clock to make it to TJ by 7. So all day was more like, let's double check our luggage. Do we have all our paperwork? Like, let's feed the kids. Let's get them dressed. Let's do all these things. So all the stuff that fell into place to get out of the house by 4 kept me from, let me pick up all the trash from like the gifts that they opened. Let me put away this stuff, or let me clean up my kitchen. My kitchen was a big deal. And my mom's like, you know what? Vete, yo vengo en la semana y te ayudo. Well, my mom wasn't feeling well, so she wasn't able to come over. So when we walked in through the door, when we got back 9 days later, en la noche, we walk in through the back door, and it's my, walk into the little laundry room, and then it's the kitchen. And I saw it, and I immediately just cringed. Y Otto se dio cuenta. So he's like, don't worry, we'll handle this tomorrow. And I'm like, in my head, I was like, yeah, right, mofo. I'm going to have to handle this tomorrow. I can't believe that the house is a mess. My head just started like going. I'm like, do I want to stay up late and just wash everything and clean? I'm like, no, I'm tired. I'm going to get some rest. I'll handle it tomorrow. So then the next morning, my brother texts super early. He's like, we just landed in LA. Let's all get together, my mom's, and let's have tamales and let's eat. And I'm like, I want to spend time with my family. I haven't seen them. We were supposed to meet up in DF, but they ended up staying in Jalisco for the entire break. So I was like, dang, okay, you know what? Fudge it. I'll do the dishes later. I want to go hang out with the family. So Otto's like, hey, I'm going to stay home. And I want to pack and wash my stuff because I have to fly out Sunday and I want to make sure I'm prepared. Well, his amazing butt started washing up the dishes, putting things away. And I was just like, thank you. Because knowing I was in my family's house, I was like, I'm going to get home to this mess again. And it's going to trigger me again and make me feel crappy. So when I got home, I noticed it. And I was like, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, right? Because he knew, he saw me, he sensed it. He could tell that I was like, it was really bothering me. And he knows that I like to leave things in their place. So he was super helpful. It was more of like being observant to your partner, right? Being observant, paying attention to certain cues and things that they say. And it's like, not just saying like, oh, we all have a lot of stuff to do. It's more of like, let me help you with that, and yeah, I really appreciate that. I think that it comes with a lot of me speaking up and saying like, it is a lot. We have 4 kids and things se acumulan rápido. It's not like you're cleaning up after one person, two people. It's like each of these kids is 3 people. They don't know how to organize certain things, especially the 2 smaller ones. But after communicating that to him and telling him how it is important to me. So if something is important to you, it's worth bringing it up. So that was a cool thing that happened this weekend. And I really was appreciative of my husband to kind of take that off my shoulders and alleviate a little bit of that stress.
The magical thing about that is that the kids are watching. I always think that's like the magical thing that's going to pay off in the long term. Like the kids see that the parents play team and that things aren't perfect. And a vacation can be done. It can be done. It might not look perfect. Like you have your preference. You want to leave the house clean. I'm the same way. Diego does an excellent job. If I'm traveling without the family, I always come home to a spotless house. The kids already know they spend that day before I get back, like literally always. And my suegra was in charge, so she was home with the kids. And she's just like, where did he learn it? From his mama, and his dad. They're very clean and they keep a spotless house. So I walked in today and she was the one in charge, and I walk into a spotless house and I'm like, oh, this feeling is always so good. The only weird thing is like, I just hired a maid right before the holidays and she's only come once. This is her second time. And I'm like, oh my God, the maid's going to come and my suegra's been here. The house is clean. But anyway, she'll love that. She says even if it's kind of clean, obviously she can do more deep clean in other places, and she's very good. She did do a lot of deep cleaning last time. Anyway, my suegra was really sweet. She was like, your house is like me going on vacation. It's so comfortable. It's so nice. It's so well kept. And all I kept thinking is like, shit, you well kept it. Like, I know this. Así no se quedó una semana, like without them being like on it. And my kids, they get a break when they come. They don't have to do the dishes. They don't have to do the regular chores because my suegra does it for them. But then, they do try to cook for themselves and still do their laundry because they won't have clothes and walk the dog. But otherwise, she's on it. And they were like texting me like, where's the mop? Where's the this? Where's the that? Like, suegra was on it, you guys. But it feels good that it takes a team to, like, I travel a lot. So that's part of my routine. My routine is actually to be gone a lot. So I already have it down to a science. I mean, like Diego was like very meticulous about packing this time. And he's like, we haven't really gotten started. And I'm like, well, I already have everything ready. He's like, how do you have it ready? I'm like, well, because my stuff's always in the same place. Like, I actually wear the same thing every time I travel. I have the same toiletry bag that I replenish before I put it away. I already, like, I have a system. You guys, I have a bag that's my bag, and I bought it to be in my bag, and it's the best bag. Like, he's like, you're right. Like, you already have that so figured out that you don't get that anxiety that a lot of people get when they're going to pack. But I learned it the hard way, because after so many times of being, why do I always do this? Oh, why do I always have to go buy the things and still forget something? And I have 25 toiletry bags because I keep forgetting that I have one and where I put it. Like, so I literally have like my stuff organized I know where it is. I have a literal routine to be able to travel a lot, para que no me saque de quicio, right? And my husband's routine is, okay, we can make the biggest mess we want, but before mom gets back, guys, we clean up for her. So people getting into those routines that are good for our mental health, because Veta was saying, I have to be honest, I have to share it. That's exactly right. Like for me, I had to be organized before a trip because I know I have my list on my phone. I know it will move smoothly. The airport is smooth. I love the airport. I don't have that anxiety. My husband, he's like clean house. Like I don't like leaving it dirty. I don't like coming back to it dirty. And he helps with that. So, and in this case, my suegra, and like your mom was going to do that. If she wasn't sick, she was going to do that. So routine.
Yeah, we don't want any mentee bees, girl. We don't want any
No.
bees.
Routine is about playing a team. Routine is about talking about what you need. Your routine might be different than another person's routine. Like other people don't maybe they don't care if their house is messy, right? My nephew, who I travel with a lot, you guys know my nephew, he likes to do his laundry before he travels. Like he puts gas in his car. He does all these things where I'm like, dang, like that's amazing. Like he gets back to like beyond, like he wants nothing that he has to do when he gets back. He doesn't want to have to pump gas. He doesn't want to have to wash his clothes. It's just so impressive, like how he has his, again, y vive solo. So he comes home to a clean house and organized life because that helps him jump back into his routine. Like today was his first day back at work from a vacation and birthday in Vegas. And he's like talking about the usual dread too about like meetings you don't want to have. But I'm sure he's confident that everything else is really clean around him because that's important to him. So we're going to wrap this episode. I think this has been short and sweet, but also effective. And hopefully our listeners got some nuggets, felt inspired, whatever your team is, whatever that looks like. Maybe it's a coworker that you can count on. Maybe it's a neighbor, it's a friend, a family member. Like, don't forget to include them and easing back into your routine. Ask them for help. Tell them how something makes you feel. Beto alluded to, and we could have a whole episode on like how to have the help with your partner that you need and how to work through those moments of feelings and communicating them. But she modeled it really well, and her kids got to see that, which is great. And Ceci talked a lot about kind of what I talked about, where like you have to be intentional about what's happening next. So you got to plan for it, talk to your partner, but also with yourself, know what you're willing to do, what you're willing not to do to get back into a routine. And then ultimately, we're going to leave you with the best part, I think, is to make things fun too and to embrace the suck. And routines can be a good thing, and they're actually for you to have a good pattern of, predictability, so you can have some level of control so that things can feel like you can move them along, like goals, for instance. So we are going to leave it there. It's been a really good episode. Welcome back to 2024 again. I'm so happy you're here with us. It's going to be a fun year, a good year, lots of exciting things at Level Up Latina. I'm sure we'll do a show soon about everything that we have in store for the new year as a business, and providing the Guilt-Free Squad to those in our circle and providing coaching. But if you want to learn about that now, go to our website. Our website, as always, is leveluplatina.com. You can find out all about our affiliates there and the wonderful brands that we work with. You can find out about one-on-one coaching with any of our coaches. You can find out about the Guilt-Free Squad, which is going to be on sale still. We've extended our sale for the month of January. A lot of people like to reset this month. So reset, get yourself a community, get yourself a thriving community. We're having a Galentine's in February. That's fun, beautiful get together of women. So if you're in the Guilt-Free Squad before then, I'm sure you're going to get that exclusive invite. To find us on social media, it's always at Level Up Latina, our handle, both on Instagram and Facebook. You can try searching us on Twitter and LinkedIn. We are there too. So just look up Level Up Latina. And until then, I think that's everything. Las quiero un chingo. This was fun. Thank you for joining us. If anybody has questions, shoot them our way. Our email is admin@leveluplatina.com. And other than that, love you girls. This was fun. Back to the routine. Back to the podcast.
Besos.